Hi, it's Hillary Topper from We Are Triathletes, and today's guest for the webinar is Colin Cook. He is the head coach of We Are Triathletes, and he's also the head coach of his own company called Peak Triathlon Coaching, and he's going to be talking about how to run efficiently. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Colin. Thanks, Colin.
Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody, for jumping on here. So I'm going to get my screen share up here, and we're going to go through a little presentation. One more time. Sorry. All right, there we go. So let me get that out of the way here. Okay, so running efficiently. So we're gonna, we've only got good planning to speak for about 25 minutes here. Certainly, if anybody has questions along the way, please let me know. We can stop and go over those. But I want to try and give you your best bang for your buck here, and pretty extensive topic that we'll go through relatively quickly, but should hopefully be beneficial to you. So about Peak Triathlon Coaching, we've been in business since 2010. We're really all about, multi-sport coaching for age groupers, by age groupers. So all of our coaches, are age group athletes themselves, and really understand, what's going on for athletes and, those crazy lifestyles we all live and busy things that we have going on. But we have, all the way from first timers all the way to Kona qualifiers. Actually had a gal take third in her age group in Kona last year. So we certainly have some high level athletes. But, again, all the way through first timers. But we really believe there is more to life than triathlon. So while it's certainly going to be a big part of your life, we want to make sure that you're finding time for other things and that you're living a healthy lifestyle, but have more involved in your life than just triathlon. With that, it's really all about the journey, and we really like to be involved with our clients and helping them along the way, whether it's, pushing through some of those lows that will always happen during each, journey to each big race, and but then also embracing those highs and whatnot. So we're really big on quality over quantity type of training, and more than just giving clients, workouts. It's really, a relationship that we establish with lots of communication and understanding what exactly that athlete's needs are and ensuring that we're helping them, be the best they can be. So real quickly on myself, so I am a Ironman certified coach. I'm a USA Triathlon level 1 coach, a youth and junior USA Triathlon coach, race official, and then from a athletic perspective myself, 12-time Ironman finisher, qualified and raced in Kona 4 times, PR of 4:14, I believe it is, for the half Ironman distance. Was ranked number 1 in the world by Ironman in the 30 to 34 age group in 2015. And last year switched over to Xterra's, still did no Ironmans, but some half Ironmans last year, but a lot of Xterra's, and was the Northeast regional champ there. But also things have changed for me over the last 5 years or so. I've got 4 children now, so they add an interesting element to training and whatnot, but love being a dad. All right, so moving on here to, how we're going to be helping with, improving your running efficiency and what hopefully you'll get out of this year. So number 1 here is staying healthy. So, really when it comes to run efficiency, there's a lot of people that are getting injured because of their inefficiencies, right? So if there's things that we can do to help figure out, what's wrong or that you can improve on that, it really should be tremendously helpful in helping you stay healthy. Another nice side effect of that is going to be that you should run a lot faster, right? If we're running more economically, that's going to make us more efficient, and we will get faster by doing so. Very, very confident in that. We can also, with some of the techniques and things I'll go through today here, we'll have some definitely help you establish a more consistent pacing strategy and hopefully not slow down much at the end of races, which a lot of people have a tendency to do. And, hopefully you'll enjoy running more. I think that that's really an extremely important piece. And, it's to not get off too much on a tangent, but it's really difficult to be good at something that you don't enjoy, right? So a lot of people, they really just, and then I just got to get through the run, and they really are dreading that run, and they don't enjoy it. And, a lot of times that's a mindset, but it's also figuring out, what is it that you don't like about running, and figuring out, what we can change or think about to help you enjoy it. And then, the results will come with that. All right. So let's go into running posture here. So certainly a very important piece on it. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but let's take a look at what we see over on the left side here is we call a familiar running form versus good running form. So let's start with what a lot of people are doing these days. That is going to be definitely inefficient, and there's definitely ways to improve on that. So off the start here, we'll notice the alignment here, right? So we see that we kind of got some forward motion and lean there with the bottom part of the body, but that upper body is kind of leaning back. Sometimes you'll even see that head down and things like that. So that posture being out of balance, and especially if we're leaning back, and we don't have that forward momentum, that's definitely going to have a negative impact on our economy for sure. So the big thing here, you notice that heel striking, and we're going to talk a lot more about that, or more specifically on that in just a minute here. But a lot of people are heel striking, and that overstriding can often really end up causing a lot of knee and joint pain, among other things there that can really, affect you. And again, could be something, the reason why you're not enjoying your running there. But so if we look over to the right here, we can see, that we've got a runner with a nice forward lean. I seem to have lost my mouse here, but if you can see it, he's got the nice alignment there, that straight line all the way through the body, where it's coming forward. We have that head up, looking up nice and forward into where we're going. And then we've got some nice compact arms. I'm going to show another shot here in a second that goes over that from the front here. But we're keeping those in nice and tight, and we've got that balanced forward posture there, right? You also see this is a little bit overdone here, in my opinion, here on this picture here, but the proper foot strike, where that looks like he's more of a forefoot striker there, where he's landing up on his toes, which we got to be a little bit careful about. But, getting up more on the front, the midfoot ideally of the foot, is really what's going to help you be a lot more economical, and also allow your body to absorb that, stride each time with that impact. And again, we're going to talk about that more in a second here. So if we look at running posture from the front here, we notice that this gentleman here, a big thing, and we've got it highlighted there with the yellow, is that he's not crossing over the midline. All right. So just like if you're familiar with it with swimming, where we don't want to cross over the midline, it's the same thing applies to our running. We want to keep those arms and that body's on each half, or the appropriate half of the body. So he's got those elbows stay nice and close inside the body here, if you can see me. So we don't want huge holes or gaps, between our elbows and our sides or obliques there. So we want to minimize that, and definitely don't want to be, running with broad shoulders and out wide very much, because that will minimize our economy there. We also really want to think about being relaxed, especially with our upper body and our hands while we're running. If we get too tense and things, that can definitely cause negative impact. But we really also need to stay focused and engaged, right? So if we're, running and training is definitely a great time to be able to reflect on work, family, different things, and certainly a piece of training that I enjoy. But, if we're really focused on something and we want to get better at it, we need to stay focused and engaged on, what exactly we're doing there. All right, so let's talk about the different types of running foot strikes here. So as I alluded to there in that couple previous slides there, we've got basically 3 different types of foot strikes. So we've got the forefoot strike that is often only used, and I'll talk about it more in a second, by elite runners. But then we have the midfoot strike, and then we have heel strikers. So in the middle there is definitely what I recommend, and I'm going to show you why here in a minute. But that's where we're going to break it down by these 3 different types. Okay, so if we look at heel striking, this is definitely the most common type of strike, and especially among the slower runners. where, you know, if we look at this picture here, we can see how this gentleman's leg is extended out, way out in front of him. He's landing just on his heel here, and then he's going to kind of follow through. And it's really forcing that impact all to come down right on that heel. And so if we actually look at this, this graph here, we can see that impact and then the force that's being generated during each portion of the stride here. So, you know, what's happening is you see where there's this, where it comes up and then it dips down and then it comes back up again. That's because there's ultimately two different impact points as you're landing there, because you're kind of landing on your heel and then you're forcing the body again to then land again on the midfoot. So, you know, there's a little bit of a shift where it comes back and then comes back up to be able to, or from an impact or force perspective, that's what's happening with that stroke, or stride, I should say here. So this is really impactful on, you know, ground impact, and can be absorbed by the lower leg more significantly as opposed to the full body that I'll show you more here with a midfoot strike. And it's definitely because of that, it's definitely prone. These types of runners are more prone to injuries and what things. Also from a triathlon perspective, it's definitely ends up being a more quad dominant style of running. Which, you know, is often going to end up, especially if we've used our quads a lot more in cycling and things, going to make it so that we don't run, you know, quite as well. If we have extra fatigue quads, you know, from the bike, we're not going to run as well as efficiently as if we can activate, you know, our glutes and other things that we're going to talk about here quickly with the midfoot style of striking here. This also equates often to a lower cadence, and we're going to talk quite a bit about cadence here and what's important with that. But these runners, again, really typically have low cadences, and we'll show how that can be have a negative impact or reduce your economy there. So as we switch over to midfoot striking here, we can see we've got our gal here that's landing we're getting, you know, that foot is, and that knee is right up below, or the foot, I should say, is landing just below the knee. And then it's allowing that absorption to be able to come straight up through the body. I mean, there's a slight lean there, but much more of that body position is related to where exactly you're impacting on that ground, so that your entire body, again, can absorb that impact. So, right, so now if we look at this graph here, when we compare that right back to the heel striker, where we had that, you know, went up, came back down, and then back up, this is just a steady up and then right back down. So it's much more, you know, proven just from a force perspective. It's minimizing the amount of force that you're putting in stress on the body by landing more on that midfoot. So this is something that definitely would help you be able to increase your cadence. And then, you know, activate your glutes at the same time, so you're not quite as quad dominant as those heel strikers and whatnot, which again then equates to reducing the risk of injury there. So if you look at this, couldn't get an identical shot here on the forefoot striking, but you can see here this gentleman is really landing up on that toe. And you can see, you know, I would certainly recommend this style of running over heel striking, right? Because you can still see that body is in the leg position is up underneath the rest of the body, excuse me, a lot closer than it is to those heel strikers. But you're still getting out, and you're really significantly relying on your calves and things to generate your propulsion, and that absorption's coming a little bit more out in front of that foot, which for most people isn't ideal. I will say when it comes to midfoot striking, a lot of people, especially when they're making that transition from heel striking to midfoot, they almost have to feel like they're landing on their forefoot and up on their toes. But we just need to be really careful about that. I mean, so, and again, just to use the two pictures here, you know, we see the contrast between the forefoot striker on the left and then the midfoot striker in the middle there. And again, kind of comparing how that absorption's happening much more efficiently, and, you know, being absorbed by the entire body by having that midfoot placement there, and all that force coming up through the entire body. So the one thing you do have to be careful about, and actually I had a gal, probably quite a few years ago now, that I was working with, and we were working on her stride, And so, she was working on that midfoot, and she ended up doing a race not too long after we had just worked on this, and she ended up running on her forefoot pretty much, and she ended up getting her calves were just completely smoked after the race, and she was really, really sore after and things like that. And so clearly she had, changed some things with her economy, and she was getting up on the forefoot, and it was just too much of a shift with the way she was running, and her calves and the rest of her body just weren't quite prepared for that yet. So, anything that we're doing for changes here, definitely a recommendation would be to slowly work on incorporating in those changes or whatnot. Okay, so now when we talk about, I just want to quickly go over, the types of arches here, and then we're going to talk about running shoes. And, when we're making sure that we're economical when it comes to a running, it's very important that we have the right type of shoes. In order to do that, we definitely have to have a good understanding of what type of arches we have, right? So very easy way to do this is actually just take like a piece of paper or even a, a paper bag or something, wet your foot and then step on that surface, and you'll get a picture very similar to one of these three. So that can be a very quick and easy way to figure out what type of foot you have if you're not aware of it. And then there's also, I highly recommend Roadrunner Sports. They have this thing they call the Shoe Dog on their website. And if you go there, it just takes a couple minutes. It's got, 5 or 6 questions, asking about, one, what type of foot you have, but then what sports you're doing, or, if you're running marathons versus half marathons, triathlon, different things. And it'll give you recommendations on what kind of shoes. But it's important to recognize, the type of arches that you have, and ensuring that the shoes you end up picking are the right for that. So with that, picking the right shoes is extremely important. So there's definitely, we're kind of have come out of that minimalist, the barefoot running craze is kind of over, which I think to be a good thing. But at the same time, there was a lot we could learn from midfoot style. I'm sorry, from the minimalist style of running there. And while it did end up getting a lot of people injured, I think, because they were too drastically changing their foot strike. Because minimalist style shoes, and especially the barefoot running kind of style of shoes, those are going to force you to end up landing at least on your midfoot, but oftentimes up on your forefoot. So again, that shift really was a little bit too drastic for a lot of people, and I think that's what caused them to get some injuries out of it. But a lot of benefit in things. I think that helped with the running community by recognizing that we don't need to have these huge platforms and things like that, like the Hokas and things of the world. Certainly not to negatively talk about the Hokas and those maximalist style shoes, because I think they have a lot of value and they can do some really good things for people. But we need to recognize, that there's these different types have their different needs and whatnot. And I'm actually a really big fan of having different style of shoes. So, maybe you're doing your long runs and things like that in those maximalist style of shoes. But, you're doing those shorter runs, maybe in, a roads kind of more conservative or neutral style shoe, or even, still using those minimalist style shoes for those shorter runs, because, it can help you plant and get a better feeling for where exactly you're landing on your foot. And, with the maximalist, they have so much absorption there that a lot of times that can lead to inefficient running, because it kind of corrects and makes it so you don't recognize that you're landing on it in a different place because of that absorption, if that makes sense there. All right, so the thing I'm going to spend the most time on here, let's see how we're doing on time. We are doing all right, I think. Actually, going a little slow here. Sorry. So we're gonna look at our running cadence. So for those hopefully are familiar, it's gotten pretty popular these days. But that's technically the flow and rhythm of events, especially in the pattern in which something experienced here. So when we're thinking about tracking our cadence, right? hopefully we can hear this here, but this is just a cadence of 90 that we're set. So it's just beeping, basically 90 times in a 60-second window here. So I won't keep that going for too long here. Oh, maybe not. But that is something that is really important. And the reason I'm such a big fan of tracking our cadence is that it can really help us improve on our, and automatically, or kind of force us to end up being midfoot strikers as opposed to heel strikers and things like that. Because oftentimes to increase that cadence, you need to shorten your stride. And in relation, that will then force you again to end up on that midfoot a lot more. So rather than, looking at, your stride per se, and, you can certainly go get a run gait analysis, and I do see value in that, but a lot of people kind of run the way they run. And when you start altering, if they're pronating or different things like that, when they try and change that, they end up having a lot of challenges and things, and often can lead to injury. Whereas if we kind of respect those things and we change the way our stride is going, and often again it equates to shorter strides, that can really give us the improvement in things that we're looking for. So we ask, what should my cadence look like? It's definitely going to be different for everybody. And, Garmin has really helped, with most of their different watches and things like that now offer cadence. You may need to have the heart rate strap and things like that, but it's very easily accessible. And I'm going to jump into gadgets here in a second. But we've got guys like Javi Gomez that are, running at over 200 during, especially during Olympic distance races and things like that. And then, Jan Frodeno, back in 2015, he was actually running at about 170 for a cadence. So it really varies, and you got to figure out he's a bigger guy for sure, like myself, but I still recommend something in that 176 to 184 range. So once again, this is definitely something, if you're going to practice or try and improve on this, you want to be gradual with that and not, go from 160 all the way up to 180 in a week, because that could lead to issues. But if you slowly progress on that, it should really help you improve and become more economical here. So ways that we can measure our cadence. So there's the old school kind of more music-based devices that you see over here on the right. You can obviously count yourself. So counting yourself, what I recommend you do is basically, while you're running, just start counting for about 30 seconds. So, take a peek down at your watch and count during that 30 seconds. And you're only counting, when we're talking about 180 or let's say steps per minute, that would be both feet. So you'll see kind of a mix between these where a lot of running actually specific cadence measurements are done on a per foot like that. So we're looking for that, around 180 steps per minute. But if you convert it over to what, cyclists use, where you're looking at, that would be just that one revolution per foot. So then you're looking at around 90. But, so you just count for 30 seconds and then you can double that number. And that's where, again, we want to be in that 86 to 94, 88 to 92, somewhere in there is where ideally you want to get to. But there's also other cool apps, and I'm going to show a couple other gadgets in a second, but Spotify, I'm familiar with that music offering there. They have actually a section there where you can pick which specific cadence you want to run at, and it'll allow you to focus on it that way. So when it comes to gadgets, we've got things like the Garmin here. So, our 920s or our 935s and things can track your cadence automatically. We can make them a field up on the display there. We also have the green one there from Garmin. That's the Run Dynamics piece that they have, and that can give you some even more advanced metrics and things. So that's not required necessarily, but can be pretty cool when we start getting into our run economy and whatnot. And then down in the bottom left here, we've got the Stride Power Meter, which is pretty neat. So that's a gadget that actually shows you how to measure and displays your effort in a power perspective. Often, it used to be that was only something we tracked on the bike, but now we can see it on the run as well. Also pretty interesting that Garmin has also recently just given that functionality, if you have the 935 XT and you have the advanced running strap, they will give you that for free, which is pretty cool. And then over on the right here, we have some of the more old school kind of foot pods that would be used to track cadence. Going to crank through this here real quick, but we also have some neat AI basically style of gadgets and things that we can use. So the Lumo Run is really cool. So this is a device you actually put it kind of right on your back below. You can just sneak it onto your shorts there. And then the app syncs up with your phone. So if let's say you're out running and you got your headphones connected there, or I guess if you didn't have headphones on, it would just speak verbally through the speaker. But it can give you updates, on like different splits. All right, that your pace was 8:11 for this mile or whatnot, but it'll also give you a lot of different run dynamics and things like that that'll help you with. So very cool from that perspective. And then the Run Scribe and the LifeBeam VI, these headphones, do very similar things where they can really help you and kind of be your coach to make improvements and understand what you need to improve on and things like that. So if you're really trying to get more economical, some of these devices can really be helpful. All right, so I wanted to show a video of me running here real quick. So let's take a look at these for about 30 seconds here. So at these two, I'm running at two different paces, but I want you to see, if you see much of a difference here, what those differences might be. Hopefully we got a look there, and did we notice any kind of a difference there? And for lack of time here, I guess normally I would crank through and ask the audience, but which one was I running faster in? That left image there or the right one? And so let's take a look at that. So, hold on here. Let's see. There we go. Sorry, I thought this was going to come up here. But basically, we have a 6-minute pace that I was running at on the left side, and then I was running at an 8-minute pace on the right side. So hopefully they looked pretty similar. So in both, I was actually running at right around a 90 or 180 steps per minute cadence. But the big difference is going to be with what's going on with my arms and with my legs. So if we look at this image here, this is a good example. You can see that clearly with the 6-minute pace, my leg and my leg swing is coming up a bit higher in the back there, as opposed to when I'm running at a slower pace, I don't necessarily need to generate as much propulsion as I did to generate the 6-minute pace. All right. So if we're looking at this, and then now we kind of compare that reach with that swing, with the elbow, we can see that at similar positions, this on the left-hand side here, my elbow is coming further back than it is on the right in the image when we were going a bit slower. And then also we can see though that from an impact standpoint, it looks very, very similar, where the foot is striking at almost the same exact place. Even though, I'm going at significantly different paces, all right? So the real point of that here is, sorry, I guess got out of order here, is that, we can really, even if we're running at different paces, we should be able to stay within that same range. So if we focus on that, and I actually challenge most people to try and increase that cadence, especially when they're running slower, to when they're first starting out. And if you can do that, it will significantly help you and get you faster with your faster running and whatnot, where it's more natural that a lot of people will pick up that cadence there. But especially if you focus on that cadence as you fatigue, I can almost guarantee that will help you get faster, and or not slow down as much as you would if you were to go through, with a lower cadence, or allow that cadence to drop. So I just want to give a couple different examples, some workouts here. So we have some hill repeats I'm a very big fan of, can really help you with your run economy. When we're doing those, we want to think about really landing up more on, again, on that midfoot and up on the front of the foot. but on that incline can often help you. It allow you to establish that because of the incline being there. It's going to force you to get into that good position. So you're certainly going to build some strength by doing hill repeats, but they can be very beneficial there. So really quickly here, so the apostrophe here means minutes. So we do kind of a nice long warm up or something like this. And then these are just 30-second, really hard, close to all out efforts. And then we recover for 90 seconds and we do 5 sets of those. And then we recover very easily for 5 minutes after here. Strides can be an awesome workout, especially when you're working on your economy here. So, we get out there, we do a nice warm up, and then we build our pace. We don't want to get to an all out sprint. So these are not meant to necessarily be a super hard workout, but we build that effort up to about 90% for the last, 3 to 4 seconds. Then we, bring it back down for 45 seconds and we do that 10 times. And this is just a good old fashioned speed workout, some half-mile repeats where it's short enough, hopefully, that you can really stay engaged and focused on your economy and whatnot, and go very fast and push your pace a little bit. And hopefully that helps you get that cadence up. And then, pace controlling. So as you can see, big fan of controlling our pace and doing things based on pace. So, this is an effort to kind of get that pace dialed in. So we're running, 4 minutes at 1 minute slower than our 5K pace. So, this is all assuming that what your 5K pace is. And that's how we do a lot of things in benchmarking, is based on people's 5K paces, and then going off of that. So some really quick, some general recommendations here. So I just want to remind people too that, even the most elite runners, if you're watching in the Olympics or whatever it may be, you'll see some inefficiencies and things like that with a lot of runners. So don't feel like you have to run perfectly. But if I really see a lot of success with people if they focus on getting that cadence down first, and a lot of good things will happen with that. I also recommend, we talked about the different style of shoes, trying to run in different pairs, and even if you only have 2 pairs of the same kind of style of shoes, using 2 different brands so that your foot's not used to the exact same thing all the time. That often really can benefit people. It also supposedly can help your shoes last longer by rotating. Also just making sure that we respect our effort levels and paces, right? So if you go out and run at the same pace all the time, that's probably the pace you're going to remain at. So you got to make sure that you're working in what we call the 80-20 rule there. So really that's, it's because running puts so much stress on your body, and especially for triathletes, compared to swimming and biking, it is the highest stressor and impact to your body. So, we want to do a lot of our running at easier and comfortable paces. And then, we can push it during those speed workouts, like those examples that I showed you before. So, we want to definitely make those easy workouts easy and those hard workouts hard, but respect your pacing, and, don't be going out and running at the same pace all the time here. And again, we kind of talked about the beginning, but just making sure we're having fun and enjoying those workouts. So that's basically the Priza. Looks like I went a little bit over. I apologize. Thought it was going to be shorter than that. This is something where, if you have some more interest or any questions, certainly let me know. We actually have 8 different coaches, including myself, throughout the U.S. That we work with. So we have coaches out in Arizona, North Carolina, and then a lot in the Northeast region here. So if you guys are interested, certainly let us know. But with that, I appreciate your time. And if there's any questions, I'm certainly happy to field them.
I have a question for you. How much variation do you think should be between one's easy pace and their hard pace?
So I guess it depends a little bit what you're considering your hard pace. But I mean, I have people typically running, I'd say, like 2 minutes slower than their 5K pace for their easy runs. So, let's say that your 5K pace is like, let's say, a 6-minute mile. Then you should be running 8+ minute miles for your easy runs. That makes sense?
Yeah, I guess so. What do you think about, what do you think about running with power And what I've noticed is that the power meters aren't true power meters the way it is in a bike.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always a little bit skeptical of the power, as my coach kind of likes the power, but where I run, there's some wind. So I don't think it's picking up the wind effect, at least on the
Sure.
stride.
Agreed. Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing there is where, the running power meters are lacking is the fact that they don't, you don't have different gears that you can shift between, right? So, regardless of your effort, are you going to have to, vary that effort, or you're going to have to put out certain powers? I mean, I guess the same kind of can hold true for hills and things when you're riding. But it's a lot harder to control that power effort, or level, I should say, with the running power. So I think that's the biggest challenge for most. But when it comes to pacing and making sure, especially if you're somebody that has trouble with running, they go out too hard and they fade at the end, I think it could definitely have the potential to help, kind of tone people back a little bit, or maintain that effort a little bit more consistently. So no doubt they're in their infancy, and there's some improvements that need to be made, but I think that they're going to have a lot of value.
There's more of those 99.
All right. So anyway, I'm not sure who's talking, but we'll, I think that's a wrap for now. And thank you very, very much for your time. This was awesome. Very, very informative. And you can see Colin again in a couple of weeks. He's going to be doing a beginner triathlete seminar, and that should be awesome. Next week, we're going to be focusing on depression and triathlons. Boy, do I know that too well. And we've got some other really great seminars coming up. So just stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.